processing, all communication setting, directing current sense of sequence, power recognition, time formats, time calculations, intervals, puts position, location, and travel, and directions, and calculated sending lines in set position. The power perception itself, guys, is extremely powerful. Whatever the mind process, whatever it's doing here, it's identifying the body here. What you have to understand is how you see that through its identity force. It's the mind that projects everything, that processes everything that you see, that perceives consciousness, that brings everything in through the system, through its imagination. Whatever you're doing here, the body connects. Whatever the mind does, the body follows and projects. So whatever the mind becomes, the body becomes. Whatever the mind says, the body says. Whatever the mind moves, the body moves. It's basic interpretation. It simplifies everything, what you are and what you aren't, of anything of story of indication. Now modifying that is understanding that the power of its mind, which is nothing but an astral projection of yourself. Okay? Thinking here is thinking here. Knowing here is knowing here. Understanding here is understanding here. It's all in projection. How you see your reality is the power of its illusion. That's all it is, nothing else. It's a running film strip that you're trying to modify through. And it's all done through imagination, people. Imagination, imagine that. It's all imagined. Okay? But you're bringing it in real time. And it's affecting your body. It's affecting the mobilities. It's affecting the movements. It's affecting the channels of operation. It's affecting the way you eat. It's affecting the way you sleep. It's affecting what you do, what you hear, what you feel, what you touch, what you taste. Understand? That's all it is. How you project the body. This is the body. It's all the body. Which means there's no brain here until I bring it in. Okay? There's no ears until I bring it in. Your body itself is just a projection of astral projection of itself, which is just a running film strip of frames. Running frames through its windows. And modifying that is through astral projections of yourself that you're trying to identify through. That's processed through the mind, that goes through the body, that filters through the body. Okay? It's a running data operating system that you process through. Data processing, data programming to programs, okay, that you are. Not you, the projections of programs. Everything that you see is all of you. You don't exist, but you exist all at once. You are the narrator to the narrator of you. You're running a film strip through your data operating system. And how to process that through IPA, how you process that through iOS, is all determination what you do in set position. Believing is seeing. Seeing is believing. But what you're doing here affects the body. That's all it is. But it's an optical illusion. And how you see that is all levels of attraction. Now we have to modify ourselves and understand how to see ourselves in 12-dimensional beings of light. Okay? So factoring communication lines of triangulations are box frames, set course centers, starvation time frames, and locations of 3 waving panels and set lines of sequence. Whoa. This is interesting. So in that objective, the body's trying to figure out, sir, what does this all mean? Well, it's all based on how you see a triangle. It's all based on how you see a star. It's all based on how you see a square. And it's all based on how you see 3 waving panels. Right? Through an astral projection of yourself of who you always are. If you understand the metaphysical, the mental capacity, the psychological, the emotional, the spiritual, okay, to your systems, that factors everything to all levels into the psychological system, that is psychosis, then you realize there's nothing wrong with you. It's just you're not understanding how to run a film strip through a projector, a projection, right? That interconnects, that interlines, that interlinks and interwoves your systems. Everything you do inside affects everything outside projection, which is a running operating system that your body's filtering through. And it's all levels and how you see it through frequencies. How you see a triangle, how you see a star, how you see a box, or how you see three waves is all up to you. Not how everybody else sees this. That's a story. So your mind does not live in stories. Your body does not live in stories. Your space does not live in stories. Your time, your formats, your clocking, your foundations do not live in stories. Okay? You're going through stories of creation. They're programs, guys. And the more you modify that, and the more you understand what the body completely is, then you understand what it is in that position. So you see the interconnection system to the inner outline center position. In and out, out, in. Understand how to see it through its polarities. Okay? Understanding how to see it through action, how to see it through its emotion, how to see it through communication. So everything you do up here is processing through the body. It's filtering everything you're seeing is everything you're believing. Believing what you're seeing what you're believing. It doesn't matter. It's how, what you believe and what you see is exactly what it is. Of no confusion. But you know it's not a triangle. You know it's not a star. You know it's not three waving panels. You know it's not a box. But then it is a triangle. Now it's a star. Now it's a box. Now it is. Three panels, three waves, whatever it is. Right? So there's no confusion. How you adapt your mind in the psychological system. Other psychosis locations that you guys modify through the hours and seconds, hours and minutes, and hours and position. Okay, I can modify through its frames. Going through that position locations, you start to recognize it's a box frame, it's center frame, it's a triangulation into a circle frame. Look at that. What happened to that? Off position. There's three panels here. Now there's only two. Something changed. So I got to process that, bring that back in. See, if you're not identifying yourself, the drawing changes. If you're not identifying the process of the mind, the body changes. What you understand is to master yourself inside is to project yourself outside. So I don't want anybody to get confused how we communicate to that level and set lines of sequence. So process in that position is not just understanding you, registering you through an astral projection of yourself that you live in a 12-dimensional space. You have to understand how to go through the portals, how to go through the stargates through a 12-dimensional being that you are, and how to identify that through the mind is understanding the interconnection setting, interweaving system, the interacting system, the interaction system, knowing how to modify yourself from inner space to outer space. So let's get into the information setting of grounds and set lines of sequence. 5 central line settings. Okay, set position 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? Let's bring in information lines. Let's bring in all communication so you can actually see interactions. All right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right? That's 5 line position, finger point lines of grounds. So I see my fingers as nothing but arrows of indication. Okay, just arrows. That's all it is. I don't see it as fingers. I see it as timelines of a compass. Okay? Timelines of a compass. Imagine that. So it's not fingers. It is fingers, but it's not just fingers. So I'm understanding how to adjust my mind and process through the body. And what the body is seeing is the optical illusion of what it is, astral projection. So I understand the time frame. Okay, so now 0 correlations, 0 travel, 0 positions, 0 operation of 0 grounds. Whoa, it's getting interesting, right? Then we come into the flux, time capacitor, time calculation, right? Then we come into all levels. So it's constant continuous flow to an internal to eternal. Internal beings of light and eternal, okay? So you have to understand that you're both at the same time, same measure, same scale, because your polarities are going at the same frequency, same time measure, same time scale, same balance, same equilibrium, same flux, right? You're just processing through different times, but you're seeing each other at the same time. which means you're running your film strip, and everybody in that film strip is running the same frequency. Because the thing is, everybody's in a different movement, but you have to process how you want to set that up in different characters and the roles that you play as you bringing in those process in that position of its programs, so the body understands what's going on as it can motivate its system, so it knows exactly how it got there in its projection of its mind that's created through the case, through its setting, through its thoughts, action, emotions. So it puts position lines of 3 lines of flux, process lines of position lines of travel in second course calculation, right, in its directions. There you go. Okay. So it's amazing how we formulate and simulate that. Now, when I bring that position lines of setting, I start to look at my hand, okay, and I formulate the system, plasma around the system and setting, okay, and this is what my finger is. All through travel, all through directions, all through astral projections, how I see it in different formations of its astral projection of itself. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? But it's a constant, continuous to internal to eternal being that you guys are doing. You're interconnecting your light and you're interconnecting your dark, right? But perceiving consciousness is knowing exactly what you're doing in information system. So let's get into communication lines and settings and conversion. All right, so what you understand, once you're indicating what's going on through passages, once you understand everything through resolution, then you really understand that everything you touch, okay, is not physical. It's mental, capacity physical. It's a psychological system. It's the psychology system. It's a metamorphosing system. It's the mutation system that's touching things through its electrical lines of wires. These are just wires, okay? Box frame, triangulation frame, circulation frame, motivation frames, correlation communication lines, high C, high core centers, PC, line position law, CPU. How you see the information setting is just energy. Vibration, frequency, and harmonics. That's all you're picking up. You're sensing your sensories and you're enhancing your systems in technology that you do, and you modify yourself through astral projections, what you are in that position, all right? All right, so I want you to look really, really closely, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the pattern resolution because this hand has to be left. Because when I touch things, I'm touching the outer space that's reaching the inner space. Outside, looking in. That's how you connect to its formation of conscious, of its awareness, of its intelligence, of its operation system. Because like I said, everything around you has its own data operating system that processes everything of its mind, that projects everything of what it sees. From everything through its senses to its sensories, through the body, through its filtering system of operation. Okay? All right, so in that position, I don't want you to look at my hands, I want you to look at me. As you're looking at me, you're going to see the transformation of the hands change in real time, which is pattern resolution. All right, and once you understand that, it gets much easier. How you see your astral projection change its time and its format and its balance and its equilibrium and its polarities and its position, its operation. Okay? Okay, so this is left, this is right, see? Thinner, thicker. You can tell. Okay? And the only way you can tell is don't look at this. Look at me. Look there. Look beyond, you see beyond. Look at things, you get confused. The astral realm, the astral connection system, is all levels how it sees this formation system, is everything of its beyond its system. Knows its system all through operation. Right? And you can see it. You can see my hand is left. Now you can see it right. That changes the image of you. That changes the delusion to the illusion of its pattern and recognition of the power perception of the optical illusion. How you see things through your hands or anything, a pattern of face recognition. And this is how you change things in real time. So when I touch things, I know this is my left and this is my right. And once I understand, once I get out of the 144 flux, which is the foundation of 12th dimension, it's much easier for me to modify things. And now there's nothing there. Just the empty mind of empty space, of empty time, of foundation clocking. There's nothing there. The internal to the external is just empty space. You're in the empty mind of everything. There's nothing to process. There's nothing to observe. You're watching everything of its own operating system. That's operating everything that it's seeing through you, through the vision. So you're looking at the beauty, you're looking at the art, you're looking at the composite, you're looking at its system of its operation. It's in its own movement, it's its own system. It's going through its own galaxies of its own universal setting. But when you perceive consciousness, that's where it changes everything of the mind, that processes everything, which is movement. You're telling your body to do this, you're telling your body to do that, but the body has to understand the difference. And everything that it touches, it has to modify in that position. It's no difference in understanding how to go through the biological system, how to get in position of crawling, walking, and talking. You do the same thing, but you're coming to the astral projections, which you always are, which you never left. You've always been, so there's nothing physically wrong with you. There's nothing mental wrong with you, or meta, or psychological, or emotional, or spiritual. There's literally nothing wrong with you. And once you identify the mind, understanding the body is what you're seeing, is what you're believing. And the more you believe, the more you see. And the more you see, the more you're putting your positions of, is operating yourself, is understanding how to master the mind of you through the alteration of state that you put yourself in through. And that is all levels of an optical illusion that we see through our projections of ourselves and each other. Okay? So, it's amazing how we see that, right? So again, I'm going to change this into right, because now it's still, right? Still, movement, left, right, left, right. After 144 flux, it gets more complicated. This can be left, 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 right, 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 left. This can be right, right, left, 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 right, because it's constantly changing. So your astral projection is constantly changing structure. It's constantly changing the sacred geometries of you of travel. It's like if you throw in an arrow, that arrow knows where it's going to be next because it's already been there, which is no memory, but it's a constant continuous flow that just it keeps expanding, but there is no one unit of measure. And that's what you have to get out of, is the three-dimensional scale that you process yourself in, because that's all the body sees. Because the mind is doing that, and the body is just going through it, through its filter. So it needs to understand the difference of what's going on with the body outside that interacts everything from inside position, its operation. Because it's an internal force to eternal force. Internal, I-N, to eternal, your eternal beings of light. Now you just have to understand how to go through the astral projections of you. And as you're going faster, you're going in a higher level set position of vibration frequency. So you just become this. That's all you are, an astral projection. And it's constant continuous force that you don't modify anything in set position. You don't title, you don't label. Because it's going too fast. The set lines of travel. So knowing exactly what you always are is knowing exactly what you've always been. And everything that you come in positions of is all through interacting your systems and your hand information. How do you see your hand on this level? How do you see your hand on another level? But knowing how to see your hand, okay, as 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. There's your hand. Okay? That's just your hand. Let's bring it in a higher formation, settings, frequency, and grounds. What's that sequence? There it is. There's your hand. Okay? So it's just numbers. And then you can add symbols on top of that. So 1 equals a square. Okay? 1 equals a square. 2 equals triangulation. Just get into the basics. 3 equals clocking and foundation. Okay? 4 equals a flux, capacitor. And 5 equals center operation. Okay? Those are your 5 fingers right now. All through indication, right? Now how you modify that is understanding position. Bring in frames, lines, directing ground centers, bar coding and screen line adaptation, process lines of wires, signatures, all together and set position lines of travel. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There you go. 5 fingers. Okay? But the 5 fingers needs a base, which is earth rotation lines of grounds. Okay? It needs its roots. Past, present, and future. Okay? Now, as you formulate that, you go through the box. See? I'm working around the hand now, creating the structure outside the location. the process, its landmass, in set position. Okay? So it's much easier to identify yourself, how you see that in all formation, through astral projections of yourself, how you see it translucent, transparent, thermal, or X-ray, or anything radiation or gamma. But you truly understand how to modify that, how you see your hands of formation. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there it is. There's your hand. Right there. See? Look at that. See? That's all your hand is. So you work from inside outside, but you have to master yourself inside, which is internal light to eternal beings of light. Knowing how to indicate that position on all levels. So you see triangulation, flux, box line, frame line, core standards, convergences, lines, calculation lines. So identifying that through the astral projection locations, the body comes into acceptance of what you're doing. What you are doing. What you're projecting in your mind. Creating stories. So the body understands what's going on in its system. So it can project things in its mind and start believing what it's seeing. Through the perspective. There's no right or wrong. That's just you not believing what's right or wrong. So your body gets very confused if it doesn't come into acceptance what it always is, the astral projection of itself that it constantly goes through. It's never, ever, ever in the same body of astral projection. Never. Because it's always protecting its identity from everything else until everybody else comes back online. Until everybody comes into that position of operations. What you're all coming into. Is memory and no memory of who you really are. And then you start to recognize all that 5 setting location system is just all of what you always are been. You know exactly who you are. You know exactly what your body is. You know exactly what your fingers are. You just come back to who you are. You don't come back to a story. There's no existence of a story. The body understands the difference. Through its indifference, that doesn't make any difference at all. But it's different how you see it. How what you portray here identify what's going through the body. Operates everything from inside that projects everything outside. That's all it is in position. But there's my hand. Okay? How I see space and time. Okay? All through setting, all through operation, guys. Okay? That's just the basic intuitive understanding of that positions. Because whatever you're doing here, the body is going to respond and react. Okay? But remember, it's all levels of inside of which you are first. Is to internal to eternal beings of light. Processing that is knowing how to use that. Okay? To the positive negative, which is you inside, to the negative positive, which is you outside. See, the thing is, everything outside is the opposite. But you're doing it from inside your sin, which is all of you in balance. How you interconnect that, change the formation system, how you see that body of its frame of communication. But the one thing you can't get out of is the astral projections of yourself, of what you've always been. These are 12-dimensional beings of light through foundation, through its clocking system. Hola. That's all it is in travel. That's all it is in indication. That's all it is in operation. And the more you understand this, the more you understand how to see the body in a transition of a flowing recognition of time. This helps you to really understand how to have an energetic flow pattern, knowing exactly how to run the operation of you, a projector, and what you see outside of the projection. So you understand the internal, which is the positive over pi, okay, positive over negative, inside. The negative over positive is outside of you, which you are portraying inside of everything, which is just your sin, a box frame. Okay, so you have to understand how it comes into the Affinity 8. How it comes into the Affinity 8. Okay, propellers. It's that positions operation. Flower or recognition is time frame. A flower, which is the flower of life. Okay, and what you propel, and what you understand, circulation, rotation, right? You keep going on its continuous force, running the film strip of design. Running 4 film strips of design all at once. So once you recognize that, You're basically working in all formation of your systems, running the operation of you. Okay? Frame by frame by frame by frame. Okay? You understand this frame. You understand this frame. And you understand this frame. And this frame. In set position. There it is. There's a holographic grid. Embedded in your systems at ground lines of communication setting to runway and taxi runway. There's the runway. Okay? Look at that. Electrical lines, position, location, cycle. High generation screens. Process lines of ceiling, lines of rotation. You see all 4 different angles of set position of this operation. All you're seeing is a primer, and set position of its bedding system all through operation, all through a graph. Okay? And it's amazing how you see it through a box frame and how an astral projection of itself sees it all through lines of signals, all through lines of travel, of its directions, of its modification system that processes everything through its mind of its programming set travel. Okay? Instead of operation. Okay? So it's connecting all the dots. And living the astral projection of yourself, 12th dimension, knows exactly what it's doing in all levels of calculation, all through travel. Okay? So it understands the grounds. Okay? It understands its panels. It understands its set position, its operation, which is its ceiling of set travel. There's the ceiling. So remember, you see yourself as a triangulation box, as a program. So as long as you understand the body is the landmass of its over soul, right? That's where I want you guys to get really into space discoveries, okay? There's the body, okay? You're creating the astral projection of yourself. You're bringing in a program. There's your higher self, okay? So now you understand how this is running now through an operation of you that you're processing through. You have a platform or 3 platforms that you're bringing in, all right? Now, you can control your system or it can control its own operation, right? So remember, you are the narrator that's constantly overriding, overlooking everything in that setting. So you are the onlooker. You are the on-watcher. You are the on-seer, okay? You are the observer. Everything you're narrating through, which is nothing of a 3 film strip of design that you're modifying through, okay? That's 1 film strip of design, okay? Now, what changes that is changes in the frames that indication settings all through travel. Okay, so it gets more complicated as you go through the location grids and set positions operation. Okay, rainbow graphs, correlation graphs, center graphs of communication system and calculation. Okay, so it gets a lot more fun once you live in the astral projections of yourself, but you're never in the same teleportation vessel. So your body is constantly changing. And the process of your program is also constantly changing. But they're always in the directions of their own system. They're always in calculate and modify. They're calculating and modify their systems, how they communicate with themselves through telepathy, telekinesis, intent, influence. That mind alterates their system, what they're doing through projection. And that's all of what the mind is processing and what's going through the body. As you work through an alignment, you work together as affirmations of one unity and one conscious and one awareness that you're going through in real time. That processes everything in set position, its operation, in all calculation, all in setting, in set position. Okay, that's all it is. So you just become all those of you. They're narrations of you, they're directors of you, right? But you are not existing. Now what I mean by that is that you are just the internal to the external light. You're just the light that overrides the dark. You're just the dark that overrides light. But there is no provision line cycles. You're just the eyes itself, which is the windows of the soul. The soul is just a modification of a program. The eyes is exactly another program set position. So you really don't exist at all. You're just creating things around you that you're bringing in. So the mind's processing and the body's filtering through its astral projections of itself. That changes everything that you do through indications, guys. That modifies everything that you're doing through integration. So you get a true understanding how it works. All of us are going through different astral projections of you. 7-day signal, 3-day signal, 4-day signal, 2-day signal, 1-day signal, 7 days of signals, operation lines of set position, operation calculation, screen locations. It's all modify how you see yourself through the astral projections of you in set position. Okay? So it's fascinating when you use your imagination, because you're constantly growing through your imagination. Okay? So you have to stop defending something that doesn't exist. Okay? You have to just come into the realization there's nothing to question, because you already have the answer. And the answer is how you see affinity 8. And the answer is how you see circulation. And the answer is how you see rotation. And the answer is how you see your modification setting all through travel, all through your Merkaba, tesseract, and tetrahedron. There's your answer. So remember, there's nothing to answer. There's nothing to think or thoughts, action, emotions. Because if you're not identifying yourself, you're not identifying you, which means you don't see yourself in 12th dimension in that position, which is always in your foundations. 12th dimension equals 144 flux, equals equation, directing ground centers, triangulation, box frame, triangulation, box frame, triangulation, box frame, triangulation, box frame. Sets core centers and convergent system calculate modify into line settings. 12D and foundation of pyramid line, set core centers, directing ground centers in sequence, platitude location 3, 6, 9, and 12, and set lines of travel. Earth line rotation, ground centers in sequence, platitude location setting, Earth point, set positional levels 0, 2, 4. 0.024. 0 calculation, 0 clocking, 0 nothing information setting. That puts lines of 2 divisions and location lines of 4 calculation. Solar generation lines, a center operation of U, a flux and set position operation. Okay? So, I'm trying to get you guys to understand how you can really modify and understand how to use this through your astral projections of yourself, live in the cycles of who you really are in 12th dimensional beings of light. Okay? When I start coming back to it, and again, you guys understand how into the balance, into all levels, awakening your consciousness of your knowledge back. And once you understand that, then you can understand what is the basics, to the adjusting, to the communications of your kaleidoscopes. Back, right? So you get a true understanding of how you see back on 4 different levels. Into all levels, how you modify your settings, understand how to get into communications, and understand the mind of conception, knowing exactly how to process that through the basics. Adjusting the communications of what you already know through knowledge of its kaleidoscope, location, and setting. Codify your system all through encryption. Breaking things down, how you see that in all lines of operation to your inception. Remember I told you about pi? And you start off with P. You have center lines of pi, you have center operation. Okay, so you got this, you got this, you got this, and you got this, right? So, all through A. What is A? Well, A could be apple. Okay? A could be airplane. Okay? A could be aerodynamics. Okay? A could be anything information setting. It could be the atmospheres. Okay? And set locations, right? Or it can just be the arrows of indication. Look at that. Look what I created all through A. Just A itself, guys. And if you look really close, you can see the teleportation, the travel. And if you look really, really close, you can see the modification setting all through calculation setting to face a pattern recognition. And if you really focus on that, then you can actually see the crop circle of set design, a 144 flux, which is its teleportation. This is all through A of indication, guys. Just A, not B, not C, just A itself. Okay? And that's what you have to modify through, is use your imaginations, is go beyond, out of the box, out of sync, out of mind, out of calculation setting. Get out of the square, okay, and come into no square. Get out of the A and come into no A. Get out of B and come into no B. That's astral projection. Because you already know what A is, but now you have to indicate what A isn't, is a story. But how you see it through story is yourself telling the operation or readjusting you of the story itself. The mind is knowing what it's doing, and the body knows what it's processing through. It knows what it's seeing and knows what it's believing. is trusting its system from inside that trusts projections of everything that goes outside. This helps you to identify yourself as you're going through the story in that settings to its film strip, a set design. Because that's all it is. Mind altering your system, mind controlling your system from inner light to outer light. Inner spectrum to outer spectrum. Inner space, outer space. Out of sync. Inner sync. Doesn't matter. It's all polarities of balance. And the more you modify that, the more you get out of a story that you've never been in. Never been in a story. The mind has to understand what's going on. If the mind doesn't understand, the body won't understand. If the mind's processing, the body's understanding. And then it's being understood. So it knows exactly what's going on, where it's always been. It's nothing but an astral projection of itself. So it can understand the dreamer that it is. It can understand the dreaming that it's going through. So it can understand the dream itself in real time. That affects everything that you're processing through as you're going through that. In your hours and seconds, hours and minutes, and hours and framing of that communication to its windows. Seeing the eyes. Knowing connected to the ears. Connecting to everything inside that projects everything outside inside of you. That's all it is, an astral projection. Running the story of you that projects everything inside, that projects everything outside. Okay? So that's what it is all through A. Just A, guys. A. Right? So I went out of my mind. I went out of cycle. I went out of projection. I went from A to no A. To all A. How I see it. In a running film strip that keeps going through my imagination, changing the structures of design. Because you're constantly existing. You're constantly evolving. But first you have to identify your all levels of you of consciousness that you've already seen through awareness, that you already heard, that you already feel, touch, taste, and connect. It's all done through its equation. So once you understand how to use the mind, the body knows what it's doing. So you can understand how to communicate to its alignment and really understand how to modify your system and adjust your systems of space and time. And how to see it through all formation. How you see the A, how you see the B, how you see the D. It's your design. You already know it. Just have to identify it at a higher frequency. And once you understand that, A is traveling to its own system. A is its own operation of its own setting, of its own consciousness, of its own identification of its own intelligence. And it's much understanding that you can see the A traveling. That's the A traveling on its own. Okay, there it is. There's the A traveling through a dimension of a solar sail. That's the A traveling. Look what it created. Now, if you want to be in the picture frame, there you are, holding the frame of what the A is. So now you're converting to the A is converting to you now. So that's two programs running in sequence, all through polarities, all set, position, operation, or setting, all within one. There it is. There's the film strip. Running the film strip and set position is operation. Correlating, communicating to the program that you created, to the body frame that you are, and travel. Okay, the body is the mass. Okay, the calculation. You just have to understand how to run a program through operation of yourself, which is the astral projections. Okay? So this is how it works, guys. This is how everything all connects. And the more you get out of a story, the more you identify yourself, which is nothing of the story itself, which is just you. You always want to be you. And you is not even you, because you is just the indication of you as a program. If I set lines of we, that's another program. If I set lines of another thought, that's another program. Another program, another frame, another frame. Do I know what I'm doing? Do I know what's going on? Does my body accessing this? Does my mind processing this? Does my body understand this? Does my body understand that? That's all you guys are doing. Process this is adjusting your body. But your body has to completely come out of all set position of what it always is. The astral projection of itself. So it truly understands how it goes through its own mind of its own travels, through its own portals, of its own stargates, of its own operations. Okay? All right, so no DQ, and that setting lines of screen adaptations of flux. We'll indicate that lines of setting in sequence. We'll get in platted locations on your test on Friday and set lines of travel. Okay? Adios.